Hello, welcome to today's session. Today we will be covering the part 2 of the UGC paper 2 for psychology June 2014 examination. So we will be covering question number 16 to 30. So let's start with the first in the series. So the first question that we're talking about is what are the steps involved in observational learning? Okay. So you have a series that has been given here. Now, to remember anything, I should be attentive about it. That's the first prerequisite condition. So let's understand this by means of an example. Supposedly, I am going to a place, Lonavala, for my vacation. Okay. So what happens is, I pay attention to the things I see in Lonavala. Then I try to retain some of this. Okay, these were the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 basic things that I really liked in Lonavala. When I'm retaining these things, I will reproduce it. If I'm talking to my families, to my friends, I will say, okay, if you are going to Lonavala, definitely visit these 5 places. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm reproducing the information that I have got here. And finally is motivation for later use. That means I'm trying to motivate. It's a beautiful place, one must definitely visit it. Okay, so therefore, in observational learning, the correct order is attention, retention, reproduction, and finally motivation. Now, the next question. Which of the following conditions indicate failure for recognition? Inability or failure for recognition is known as agnosia. Now all the things here which deal with agnosia would be the answer. So it's first, third, and fourth. So pure alexia is also known as agnostic alexia. It's pure word blindness. That means I have problem in recognition of words. Prosopagnosia means I have recognition. I have problem in recognizing faces. I forget faces easily. Okay. If I have seen a person in market and I said, okay, you are my neighbor. Next day, if I see that person again in my locality, I will not be able to recognize that person. Finally, it's associative agnosia. Associative agnosia means I am having problem in basically visualizing objects or in the recognition of visual objects. Okay, so these are the things that we have talked about for these two questions. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question is a kind of assertion reason question. Let's try to understand here. You have an assertion and a reason for a question. Now, what is depolarization? So, under normal circumstances where there is no signal being sent, what happens is you have positive charge on the outside and negative charge on the inside. During depolarization, what happens? It tries to maintain this thing as electrically neutral. So, it tries to transfer the electrically positive charge to the inside boundary. So, during depolarization, a positive charge to the inside of the membrane occurs. That's a correct statement. But this positive charge is occurring only when there was a negative charge inside. Okay, so the inside of the membrane was negatively charged, should be the statement here. So this is correct. So assertion is correct, but reason is incorrect. The next question is finding the degree of freedom for a chi-square test. Now you have a chi-square table. Okay, chi-square contingency table, the simple formula to find out the degree of freedom is n1 minus 1 into minus 1. So you have 4 minus 1 into 5 minus 1. So that's 3 into 4. That's 12. So the degree of freedom in this case would be 12. The next question. Which of the following events are critical for development of this internal sex organs in males in the third month of gestation? Now, it's very important to understand here. Till the third month, what happens is you don't have any demarcation between males and females in a child till third month of gestation. Okay, the differentiation by default everyone is considered as female till third month. At third month, there is differentiation that occurs. Now, the differentiation that occurs, it's known as Mullerian system in females, and in males it is known as the Wolffian system. Now what happens is, at this point, at 3 months, if male secretes two hormones, so if male secretes AMH or the anti-Myelin hormone, what happens is it suppresses the Mullerian system, or the female system is suppressed because it's an anti-Mullerian hormone. So it suppresses the female system, and the resultant fetus would be male. But on the other hand, if male secretes testosterone, it suppresses the Wolffian system, and the resultant fetus would be female. So that is very important to understand the hormonal balance during the gestation. Now next question is, this question is a bit tricky question. So we are talking about two things, the socioeconomic status and the ability. So it's saying that people who are affluent score good as compared to people who are poor. Now consider at a phase when the origin of Earth took place. Supposedly there were two persons, A and B. Both of them were at an equal stand at that point of time. What happened was, slowly and gradually, A by his efforts, by his energy and by his intellect, developed much more as compared to B. So there was a social imbalance that happened in the society, and that was mainly due to the genetic differences. So the one reason that children of affluent and educated parents perform well is firstly the genetic difference, then the level of nutrition and healthcare, obviously, because they have more money and they have more information, they have more knowledge, they can afford better healthcare and better nutrition. They have much more awareness. And finally, they have much better cultural and learning experiences. They can provide well-to-do schools as compared to the people living in poverty. So all the three here are correct, and D is the correct explanation for this case. The next question is, I'm talking about a premises in reasoning where I'm talking about two statements and both of them are true. Okay, for example, it's cloudy outside. Okay, that's my first statement. It's cloudy outside. Next statement is rain is about to come. Okay, based on these two statements, if both of the statements I feel are true, I can make a conclusion that since it's cloudy outside and rain is about to pour, the best thing is not to send kid to school. Okay, so that means if both the premises are true, conclusion must be true and it cannot be false. Okay, so in reasoning, when both the premises are true, conclusion cannot be true. Now, the next question here is, we are talking about the stages in memory. What are the exact stages in which the memory occurs? So let's understand here. So stages of memory. First, to understand anything, you must pay attention to that thing. For example, I am listening to a lecture of a professor from MIT. Okay, I'm very interested to know what a professor from MIT really talks about. So I am having a selective attention. That means I am interested to listen a lecture from a professor of MIT and not from a professor of my local college. Okay, so that's what is kind of selective attention. So I have selected to be attentive in this lesson. Now, there is sensory registration. That means whatever I am listening, I try to convert it to my short-term memory. That at least I must remember that much, that after 20-30 minutes I am able to recall what I remembered. To remember that, I must be able to chunk or group the information. So I will group small pieces of information or small examples that the professor gave in the class. For example, there were 6 examples that were given by the professor in the class. So I try to club all these 6 together. Then once I have clubbed all the information and all the examples together, I'll try to do an elaborative rehearsal. That means I'll try to say, I'll try to understand the meaning. Okay, first relates to second, second relates to fifth, and fifth relates to third. So I'm trying to give a meaning 1 to 3 to 5 to 3. 1 to 2 to 5 to 3. So I'm trying to give a focus on meaning. Okay, this relates to this concept with this, and this goes with this. So that is what is elaborative rehearsal. And finally is consolidation. Consolidation is the thing based on the previous memory, I am able to fortify any new information that comes in. So I have all set of information that the lecture was about. Now I have some other information from outside. I'll try to club that information into the existing information and consolidate that information. So that is what is consolidation. So the correct stage is A, that is selective attention, sensory register, chunking, elaborative rehearsal, and finally consolidation. Now let's talk about the next question. The next question is a really interesting question. So here there is a child named Arjun. His mother continuously nags him for doing the homework, and finally he does it when the mother stops nagging. So here nagging of mother acts as a negative reinforcement because finally what is the outcome is positive. The child is doing the homework. Okay. So the outcome is positive in case of reinforcement. She is not punishing the child, but she is negatively do the homework, do the homework. Okay, so what is that creating in the mind of child? My mother is always telling me to do my homework. So here there is a negative reinforcement that is occurring. It is not punishment, and it's very different from punishment, where punishment gives a negative result. Negative enforcement always gives a good result or a fruitful or positive result. Okay. Now next question. There are two things that I am seeing. One is looking big to me, other is looking small to me on television, for example. So the thing that is looking big to me, I'll feel that is closer to me. And the thing that is looking small to me, I'll think that is far from me. So that is what is assertion. If the object is larger, it is perceived as closer. So that's correct. Now, retinal disparity provides a cue for depth perception. We have already discussed retinal disparity in previous session. So what is retinal disparity? There is an object A. I am seeing it from my left eye and then I am seeing it from my right eye. So the angle formed by left eye is 32 degrees and by right eye is 35 degrees. So this variation is known as basically the retinal disparity. That is the difference by the left and right eye, and it's basically a depth perception. Okay, so reason is again correct. Both the statements are correct, but they are not mutually related. Okay, so what is happening here is basically the first concept talks about the concept of relative size in perception, and second the concept talks about retinal disparity. So both of them are correct, but both of them are not mutually related. Next question, a very tricky question and something that you must know by heart. Okay, it's nothing out of surprise here, but this is something most of the students usually forget or don't pay attention to. The cells that produce myelin are known as the glial cells. Okay, now these glial cells, they are known by different names in CNS and PNS or the central nervous system. They are known as oligodendrites. And the peripheral nervous system, they are known as Schwann cells. So Schwann cells and oligodendrites, both of them produce myelin, but Schwann cells does so in the peripheral nervous system and oligodendrocytes does so in the central nervous system. Now the next question is about research methodology. So you have a passage where the examiner says that there was elections in the country. Okay, a psychologist interviewed nearly 200 voters. To study their attitudes after the general elections. Okay, for example, there is a flood in a region of Odisha. Okay, now if I go after the flood is over to see how much damage has occurred in the area and if anyone is suffering from PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder or something like that. So what I am trying to do is, I am trying to understand something that has already happened. So it is basically the ex post facto research. So ex post facto research means I am trying to understand something after the general elections are over. So I am trying to understand the psyche of the voters or the psychology of the voters after they have voted for the candidate. So that is what is the ex post facto research is about. The next question, it's about the level of serotonin in the body. It's well established. Serotonin levels, if low in the body, they cause either aggressive behavior or antisocial personality. So it's related to antisocial personality and high amount of aggression, low level of serotonin. Okay, and also serotonergic neurons play an inhibitory role in human aggression. That's also correct, and this is the reason why low levels of serotonin lead to aggression. So both assertion and reason are correct, and reason is the correct explanation for assertion. However, the answer mentioned for this question is not correct as per the UGC question. Now the next question talks about constructive alternativism. What is constructive alternativism? This concept was basically propounded by George Kelly. And what did Kelly say? Kelly said that we experience the world around us, including places, events, things, okay? And our understanding of the people is open to various interpretations. For example, if I am seeing three persons A, B, and C, I can interpret this in my own way. Supposedly, I am person 1. I have my own interpretation about these three people. Then there is a person 2 who has different interpretation about these three. Okay, so what Kelly said, we are open to interpretations, and all the interpretations we make are subject to revision or replacement. For example, person A says about A that he is very shy, but person 2 says no, sorry, he is initially shy, but if you talk to him for say 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the person would start to talk very nicely and open up. Okay, so then person A, after talking to person 1, after talking to person A for 5 minutes, might feel that what person 2 was saying is correct. A is opening up with me and now he is much more friendly with me. He is not that shy. Okay, so what it is happening is there is subject to revision and replacement. So all interpretations are open in universe and these are subject to revisions or replacement. So B is the correct answer for this. Now the final question for today is about the Spearman theory on intelligence. Which of the following is not a consequence of Spearman's theory? Now, first let's understand the concept of Spearman. So Spearman tried to correlate different measures of intelligence and he said that the correlation among the different measures of intelligence 1, 2, 3 and 4 are positive. That's the first thing he said. Then he said that measures of the intelligence are related to common general intellectual function that occur. He said there is the general cognitive ability. You have a general cognitive ability and that is what is numerical. Okay, so you have basically it is numerically based or numerically expressed. So he said there are two abilities, G and S. G is the general factor and S is the specific factor. Now some of the scores have high G to S ratio. So he explained that there are 4 measures to obtain and these 4 measures are known as law of tetrad differences. So these will measure the 4 intelligence. So he says R12 into R34 would be equal to R of 1, 3 into R of 2 and 4. Okay, he tried to balance it and therefore he tried to show that correlation between intelligence would be equal to Rg into R2G, where 1 and 2 are the different measures and G is a general factor. It's a multiplicative process that he talked about and not an additive process. So C is incorrect and rest all are correct. So then with this we cover all the 15 questions for today's class. Hope you enjoyed this session. Stay tuned for the remaining set of 20 questions, of which one is a question based on the passage. It's a really challenging question. So let's see how we try to make it simple, how we try to simplify it and solve it. Have a good day ahead. Stay tuned for more lessons.